A string of lethal carjackings terrorizes the Washington, D.C. area. Ballistics reveal that it is the work of a serial killer who even tries to run over one victim with his own car. The FBI and police set a clever trap, but the killer insists on a violent shootout. In the early years of that decade, a serial killer stalked lone victims in the dead of night. His hunting ground was the suburbs of Washington, D.C. His target was anyone who owned a car. I am Dalton Reese, former head of the FBI's New York office. The gunman was as elusive as he was deadly. He struck quickly and without mercy. Now the FBI must follow the twisted path of a killer wherever it leads. In Silver Spring, Maryland, a suburb north of Washington, D.C., Montgomery County Police respond to a report of shots fired at a car dealership. Officers discover the body of a woman shot in the chest and forehead. Nearby lies another gunshot victim. The man is breathing but unconscious. Paramedics rush him to the hospital. Montgomery County Homicide Detective Tristan Hale coordinates his department's swift response to the slaying. You saturate the case as fast as you can, gather information as quickly as possible, and try to resolve it before time slips away. Unfortunately, with homicides, time is the enemy. The longer it passes, the lower the odds of a satisfactory conclusion. Investigators learn the two victims are janitors. They were cleaning the building that night and would have come outside to dump the garbage. Detectives work to determine a motive for the attack. You never overlook the obvious. A shooting at a car dealership raises the possibility of car theft. Representatives from the auto dealer come out and take inventory. No vehicles are missing. Nothing has been taken from inside the building. Investigators locate the victim's car keys nearby and determine that neither of their personal vehicles is gone. Robbery does not seem to be the motive. Nothing was taken. They still had money on them. Not a single thing is missing. There is almost no evidence to go on. Detective Hale hopes to learn more from the critically wounded man. The victim is intubated, in a coma, and unresponsive. In any potentially fatal shooting, there is a rule of law. A dying declaration does not have to be corroborated. It is not considered hearsay because a person who knows he is about to die is assumed to be telling the truth. A statement obtained under such serious circumstances can be powerful evidence. But the victim dies without ever regaining consciousness. During the autopsy, the medical examiner recovers the only piece of physical evidence: the bullets that killed the victims. At the Maryland State Police Crime Lab, ballistics expert Harlan Briggs examines the evidence to determine whether more than one shooter was involved. A microscopic comparison shows that the bullets were fired from the same gun. Examining the scratch patterns, Briggs determines the make and model of the murder weapon. It is a .357 caliber, specifically a Ruger .357. With no obvious motive for the slayings, detectives explore the victims' personal lives for clues. You work from the inside out. You try to learn whether these people had enemies, whether there was some romantic triangle or a thwarted lover. These lines of inquiry can lead in 100 different directions. You simply take them one at a time, eliminate possibilities, and move on. Detectives find nothing in the victims' backgrounds that could have led to their murders. Since investigators found the victims' car keys near the bodies, they decide to re-examine the slayings as a failed car theft. With that possible motive in mind, they speculate how the crime might have unfolded. The janitors were cleaning after the business had closed for the night. They were taking out the trash. Detectives suspect the gunman demanded the victim's car keys. Based on the position of the woman's body relative to her keys, they believe she tried to run. The assumption is that the gunman lost control of the situation and decided to kill both of them before he could identify which car belonged to them. He escalated an attempted theft into murder for no good reason. With little evidence, the case grows cold. Then investigators respond to the scene of another homicide. They find the body of psychology professor Dr. Sienna Langford lying in a parking lot in Bethesda, Maryland. Unable to locate her car, detectives believe she was the victim of a fatal carjacking. Noting the lack of blood spatter evidence near the body, they suspect her assailant shot her while she was still inside her car. Through interviews with her colleagues, authorities determined that Dr. Langford left her office that evening. She was clearly accosted. At some point, she got into her car. Once inside, she was shot. She was taken out of the car, dumped on the lot, and the suspect stole the vehicle. She suffered a gunshot wound to the head from a large caliber weapon. There are no witnesses. The only solid evidence is a pair of bullets recovered from the victim's body. Investigators send them to the Maryland State Police Crime Lab to compare them with the bullets from the double homicide. It is a match. The two crimes are connected. Homicide detectives begin examining unsolved cases involving similar circumstances. One detective recalls a recent homicide that occurred before Dr. Langford was killed. That victim was also shot in the head with a large caliber gun. As in the Silver Spring double homicide, responding officers found the victim's keys near his body. But this victim did not own a car, which leads investigators to question whether car theft was the motive or whether the case is even connected. Still, they decide the cases look linked. Authorities locate the bullet from that earlier case and send it for testing. Ballistics expert Harlan Briggs compares the bullets from the 4 homicides. A cross-comparison examination shows that all the bullets were fired from the same weapon. Investigators have connected the 4 homicides through ballistic evidence and an apparent car theft motive, yet they cannot understand why the killer chose to murder his victims. None of these people were armed. In terms of stature, none of them appeared to be a particular threat to the suspect. There are 2 possibilities. Either he lost control of them and felt the best way to regain control was to kill them, or there was some psychological reason he did not like these particular people. Detectives believe they are dealing with an extremely violent and unpredictable criminal and suspect he may still be in the area. Montgomery County appears to be his base of operations, the place where he felt most comfortable, where he committed all his murders, where he took his greatest risks, where he lay in wait for people. It is obvious he has some strong tie to the county. Investigators suspect he will strike again and hope to stop him before he does. But they have no clues that can help identify him. The killer's weapon is the only thing that can connect him to the murders. The best evidence they possess is the bullets. If they can find him and recover the gun, they will have a very strong case. Authorities do not want to give the killer a reason to destroy his gun and with it, their only evidence. So they decide to keep the ballistics match away from the media. If they supply the information that all the bullets came from the same gun, there is a good likelihood he would dispose of the weapon or, in the worst case, obtain a different one and keep committing crimes. More than a week after Dr. Langford's killing, a man wearing a stocking mask and latex gloves robs a bank in Chantilly, Virginia. The bank's video security system captures his image. A witness tells the FBI that the bank robber fled in a late-model white vehicle and provides the license plate number. The description of the getaway car matches the vehicle stolen from Dr. Langford, attracting the attention of Montgomery County detectives, but the license plate is not hers. Investigators trace the plate and discover it had been stolen from a vehicle in Annandale, Virginia. This leaves open the possibility that Dr. Langford's car was used in the bank robbery. The Montgomery County Task Force, which now includes agents from the FBI, requests copies of the bank's surveillance tapes to learn what they can about the robber. Investigators watch the crime unfold and notice the robber is carrying a revolver of the same make and caliber used in the 4 homicides. They think he could be the killer. The footage is the best lead they have in identifying a suspect, according to FBI Special Agent Rylan Cole. They have a great piece of video that actually shows the individual and the handgun. That picture is put on the news locally and regionally in the hope that someone will recognize him. Investigators also release information that their suspect, the money he stole, and the vehicle he was driving may be covered in red dye. The teller managed to slip dye packs into the bag of money. A dye pack is a device that, once it passes through the bank door, is electronically activated. A timer gives the person a little time to get away before it explodes, spewing a terrible red dye that stains everything. It is very difficult to remove. It gets on the money and will not come off. It takes a while to get it off a person as well. 5 days after the bank robbery, police in Northern Virginia find an abandoned car bearing the stolen plates reported by the witness. A check of the vehicle identification number proves that it is Dr. Langford's car. The officer peers inside and examines the interior. There are red dye stains from the dye packs used in the bank. They have proof positive that the car was used in the robbery. Officers impound the vehicle and transport it to the police garage for processing. Technicians find bloodstains inside the car and collect samples as evidence, but they do not find anything that can identify the killer. Lab examiners extract DNA from the blood evidence and compare it to Dr. Langford's. It is a match. Finally, investigators are able to look at the various crimes and understand their suspect's overall plan. It gels into something that makes sense. They have moved from a situation with a whole series of motives that did not add up to a concrete motive. This person is killing people in order to steal cars so he can commit bank robberies. Although authorities now understand why the suspect is murdering innocent people, they still have no clue who he is. Investigators face the nearly impossible challenge of identifying and catching a ruthless gunman before he kills again. The FBI and Maryland's Montgomery County Police are hunting a killer who has already committed 4 homicides as well as a bank robbery. Several FBI agents are part of the task force pursuing the gunman, including Special Agent Rylan Cole. One of the main roles of the FBI in this type of crime is to work with many different agencies to gather all the investigators and bring the information together into one kind of think tank. This multi-agency approach is an invaluable investigative resource for Montgomery County Homicide Detective Tristan Hale. When you start working with multiple jurisdictions on different cases, the more jurisdictions that are involved and the more that have an interest, the more assets you can draw from. The task force now understands their suspect's crime pattern. He steals a person's car at gunpoint, killing his victim, then uses the vehicle in a bank robbery. Investigators continue to look for past unsolved cases that involved a similar pattern. Nothing occurs in a vacuum. Somebody does not just start killing people. That is when they really begin the research. They identify an incident that occurred in their county almost a year earlier. The victim was a maintenance man, a Hispanic male. I was accosted by a white male carrying a large caliber dark handgun. When the masked gunman asked for the victim's car keys, the man claimed he did not own a car. The suspect demanded to know which car belonged to him. He ordered the man to turn around, face away, get down on his knees, and put his hands behind his head. At that moment, the victim felt quite certain he was going to be executed. The suspect fired 3 shots. One of them hit the man in the forearm. The victim managed to flee down an alley and hide behind a bush. He spent some minutes there waiting for the situation to calm down. After a short time, he returned to the street and waved down the first car he saw, hoping for assistance. To his horror, it was the gunman. An alert neighbor had called the police. The victim's life was spared. The following day, a witness reported seeing a masked gunman leaving the scene of a bank robbery in Centerville, Virginia. Police later recovered the getaway vehicle and determined it was the car stolen from the maintenance man. Investigators examined the evidence gathered at the scene of the carjacking. All they have is a bullet fragment lodged in the victim's arm. Ballistics expert Harlan Briggs notes that one does not necessarily need the whole bullet as long as the fragment that remains carries enough ballistic evidence. He tests the fragment against the other recovered bullets to determine whether that case is connected to the current investigation. The bullet fragment matches, yet the task force is still no closer to identifying their suspect. With little hard evidence, investigators study the killer's behavior as exhibited through his actions, searching for clues to his identity. Authorities examine the newly linked case and determine that he is unusually bold and cocky. When the investigators discuss the level of commitment this individual showed by remaining at a crime scene for 10 minutes, waiting for a witness to come back, it raises their level of concern about the subject himself. He is not in a big hurry. He feels fairly comfortable that the police are not going to arrive anytime soon. Investigators also believe the suspect has a quick-tempered, vengeful personality. He becomes very upset with his victim. He decides that he himself has been wronged in some way and is going to make the person pay for it. Yet authorities cannot understand why the suspect uses what appears to be an unnecessary level of violence during the carjackings. It does not make sense to kill somebody in the least risky part of the crime. The biggest risk he takes is when he walks into those banks, where he risks capture, identification, or running into real obstacles. Taking these innocent people off in the middle of the night in a location of his own choosing, where he can isolate them, is far safer for him than anything else he does. It simply does not make sense why he chooses to kill these people. The suspect is not only dangerously disturbed, but also clever. One of the more interesting parts of the method of operation he uses is the number of jurisdictions through which he perpetrates his crimes. He exploits the fact that no single police department can readily see his entire crime pattern. There is a carjacking in one jurisdiction, a stolen tag from a second, a bank robbery in a third, and the abandoned car in a fourth. The gunman's efforts to stymie police do not stop there. Each time he abandons a stolen car, he leaves it unlocked with the keys in plain view. One of the difficult parts of recovering the vehicles after the robberies is that they are then driven by other people. By leaving the vehicle with the keys inside, the cars are subsequently restolen, redriven, or destroyed, eliminating whatever forensic evidence might have remained. The only thing that links all the crimes is the forensic evidence from the ballistics. Investigators continue to look for additional unsolved carjackings in which the vehicle was later used in a bank robbery. They identify a case that occurred within miles of the other thefts. A woman was walking out of a doctor's office and realized she was being followed. She turned to try to go back inside but was confronted by the individual who demanded her keys. They walked over to the car. He forced the frightened woman to start it. Once the vehicle was running, he ordered her to get out and kneel down next to a wall. She remained there for a short period of time. She described it as 30 or 40 seconds. One has to wonder how much of that time he spent deciding whether or not he was going to shoot her. She was very compliant and did everything she was told exactly when she was told to do it. That may have saved her life. The next day, her vehicle was used in a bank robbery. The investigators wonder why their suspect allowed this woman to live, yet killed the others. They come up with several theories. The fact that she was a Caucasian female might have had something to do with it. He might have harbored some malice toward Hispanic people or foreign people. Or it could be something simple, that he lost control in those other situations and felt the best way to regain control was to kill them. The task force has little to work with, but it is determined to go on the offensive. Now they are trying to figure out how they can get ahead of him, how they can be in a position to wait for him when he does something, or how they can mobilize very quickly with the resources necessary to stop him. The investigators focus on the one aspect of the suspect's crime pattern that they can anticipate. They cannot predict when a carjacking will take place. Those events are too random. They do, however, know that following a carjacking, there will be a bank robbery. If authorities can predict which banks he will rob or where he will be traveling, they might have a chance to catch him. A masked gunman strikes again and again in suburban Maryland just north of the nation's capital. He shoots his victims while stealing their cars, which he later uses to rob banks. The FBI and Montgomery County Police analyze the suspect's habits in hopes of trapping him. Homicide Detective Tristan Hale explains that they had people take aerial photographs of every crime scene and the different escape routes, trying to find some logical pattern to what he was doing, something that might give them a clue. What are the consistencies? What are the inconsistencies? Is there anything they can use to their advantage to foretell what he might do next? On the surface, the list of crime scenes appears random, but a closer look reveals that all the banks he robbed share a single trait. Everywhere he went, he had access to a major roadway that would take him quickly to a thoroughfare, such as 495 or 270. The task force shifts its focus from predicting where the suspect will strike next to catching him when he makes his escape after a bank robbery. They decide they will cast a dragnet on all highway exit ramps in the area. FBI Special Agent Rylan Cole explains that they developed a plan to cast a net using all of the jurisdictions and law enforcement agencies within the Washington area, so that once a bank robbery took place, the suspect would have to pass through some point of that net. Meeting with officers from every police department in the area, the task force details the plan. They will watch for any carjacking reports that resemble their suspect's method of operation. Officers from each jurisdiction will then prepare for a quick response if a bank is subsequently robbed. They will immediately stake out pre-assigned highway exit ramps targeting the stolen car. There will be enough support at each location that he can be followed. They can bring to bear enough additional manpower to make a stop of their choosing and, if they are lucky enough to spot him, effect an arrest. Ready to cast their net, investigators wait for the suspect to steal a car. Each morning, Special Agent Cole begins his day by reviewing the reports of all the area car thefts from the night before. He looks for the one that matches their suspect's method of operation. If the suspect has stolen a car, the task force needs to identify it before the banks open, but months pass with no sign of their suspect. Investigators begin to worry that the killer has gone underground and may never be caught. They assume he is under stress at this point, feeling the heat of the notoriety of what he has done. Then notification comes from the Baltimore agents that another carjacking has taken place. A white male wearing a ski mask, latex gloves, and carrying a handgun has struck all the way up in Baltimore. A 15-year-old girl walked to her mother's car. Suddenly, an armed man approached her and demanded the keys. A housing police officer heard the disturbance and came to her aid. There was an exchange of gunfire. The carjacker took her vehicle and fled the scene. The task force learns the stolen car is a black Honda Civic. They feel very good because they have very fresh information. They know he is on the move and more than likely heading back in their direction. Based on that information, the task force casts the net around the Washington metro area, hoping he will come back through it. Patrolmen and SWAT units from jurisdictions throughout Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Northern Virginia race to prearranged locations on freeway exit ramps to watch for the stolen car. Since police cannot be sure whether the suspect has had time to switch the license plates, they pull over every vehicle matching the description. Each time they know they may face a shooter who has already taken 4 lives. The FBI and police departments throughout the Washington, D.C. area hunt a suspected killer. They stop every vehicle matching the description of the one they believe he stole earlier. Police pull over dozens of cars but come up empty. As the search continues 50 miles away in western Maryland, Brunswick police officer Baron Quill is on routine patrol. He observes a small black passenger vehicle with no front license plate. As the vehicle passes him, he looks over and sees that the driver has an Iowa license plate pulled down over his face. It shocks him. He is not sure what is going on, but it draws his attention immediately. He turns around, catches up to the car, radios his dispatchers, and requests information on the tag. The subject in the small black car speeds off and refuses to pull over. Then the dispatcher informs him that the subject is wanted for shooting at a Baltimore City officer. The hundreds of officers mobilized in the D.C. area are too far away to assist. Officer Quill is alone against a ruthless killer. The adrenaline is pumping because he is pursuing this vehicle knowing that at some point he will have to confront the individual. The speeds they maintain in some places reach 90 to a little over 100 miles per hour. Officer Quill chases the suspect from Maryland into Virginia. The man is very intent on getting away. He goes straight down the middle of a bridge, forcing people eastbound and westbound out of his way. Quill has to back off because he does not want to endanger himself or innocent citizens. Once the roadway clears a little, he is able to catch back up. Quill pursues the suspect into West Virginia. The man makes a right off Route 340 onto a small asphalt road. Going too fast in the rain, he loses control and strikes the curb. Quill steps out of his vehicle with his weapon drawn. He sees the suspect lean over toward the passenger seat and then sees the gun come up inside the car. Officer Quill is concerned about firing his weapon in a public place. When you discharge your weapon, you do not want a bullet going somewhere. It should not, and striking an innocent person. You have only a split second to make the decision, and whatever decision you make can affect you for the rest of your life. At that point, the suspect places the car in reverse and speeds backward toward Quill's cruiser in what appears to be an attempt to ram the car or strike him. The suspect then proceeds down a small access road. Quill follows. The man speeds into a little dead-end dirt and gravel area and tries to go behind a bulldozer, wrecking into it. There is nowhere left for him to go. Now Quill must confront him. Quill orders the man to show his hands. At that moment, he sees the gun coming up, and his heart jumps. While the suspect ducks for cover, Officer Quill strategically moves to his right. You do not want to stay in one position, especially after the other person already knows where you are. The tactic works. The suspect fires at the position where Quill used to be. Quill fires more shots as the man runs to the backside of his car for cover. With backup units still minutes away, the lone officer fights to stay alive in a violent face-off with a vicious killer. The suspected killer is in a desperate shootout in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, with lone police officer Baron Quill. Quill sees the man start to come up from behind his car through the passenger side window with the gun raised. He fires, striking the car, and the man ducks back down. Several seconds pass. The suspect raises up again. You can hear the actual sound of the bullet striking the metal of the car, and he ducks back down once more. Finally, backup arrives. When fellow officers put a hand on Quill's shoulder and he knows who they are, a great relief washes over him. The burden is lifted because he now has help. Within the next 10 minutes, police officers from several jurisdictions are on the scene. They order the gunman to come out from behind the car. The man realizes he is outnumbered. He stands up and walks out in front of Quill and the cruiser, about 15 yards away, and puts the gun to his own head. Quill continues to yell at him to drop the gun, to throw it on the ground. The man says he will not do that. West Virginia State Police Corporal Cale Mercer begins negotiating with the gunman. They try to work through the situation and offer help. After several minutes of negotiation, the suspect pulls the nylon stocking up onto the top of his head. Still, they cannot get a clear look at him. The suspect begins to talk. He says he is an unemployed house painter. He is upset. He has had relationship problems with his girlfriend. He has done some things he is not happy about. Everything has piled up and troubled him, and he does not know why he is doing the things he is doing. After a lengthy standoff, the gunman makes an unusual demand. He wants to talk to his mother. He gives her name and phone number. Several tense minutes pass as police attempt to reach her. They advise the suspect that they have his mother on the line. The woman asks the negotiator for the suspect's name. He identifies himself as Donovan Pryor. He is not sure whether the police are telling the truth. He says, "Ask my mom what my favorite cookie is." Corporal Mercer relays the answer, "Chocolate chip." Pryor starts crying. It shocks the officers because they think he is simply going to drop the gun and give up. Instead, they see the hammer of the revolver coming back. Everything seems to move in slow motion. The hammer drops. They wait for the gun to go off. It does not. Seizing the opportunity, officers rush in and subdue the gunman, ending the standoff. After it is all over, Officer Quill feels deep relief and profound appreciation for all the officers who were there that day. He is able to help get this person off the street and put him where he needs to be so that no one else will be hurt. Police take Donovan Pryor into custody and confiscate his Ruger .357 as evidence. It is the same model used in the murders, according to FBI Special Agent Rylan Cole. From the Pryor ballistics, they knew what type of gun it would be, a specific Ruger make, and that is exactly what he was carrying. The same types of bullets used in the shootings and the homicides are still in the weapon. After nearly a year of hard work, investigators finally meet the killer face to face. They no longer have someone running throughout the counties killing people for cars. They are excited about the chance to talk to him and find out why. While Pryor admits to the Baltimore carjacking, he refuses to admit to any of the murders. According to homicide detective Tristan Hale, throughout the interview process, he remains pretty cocky and seems to think he is pretty cool. Investigators continue to press him. At a firearms laboratory, a ballistics expert fires Pryor's gun into an 800-gallon tank of water. The examiner compares the unique markings on the fired bullet to those on the bullets recovered from the 4 murders and the attempted homicide. Ballistics expert Harlan Briggs concludes that it is a scientific certainty that this is the firearm that fired those bullets. No other firearm could possibly have done so. After hours of interrogation, investigators receive the ballistics report. That is the magic piece of evidence, the one they know will seal the entire case. They have physical, undeniable evidence they can put in front of a jury that he cannot refute in any way. They can convict him without much trouble and could have obtained a death sentence with the information they have. That knowledge puts it over the top, and he decides it is best to make a deal for life rather than take the chance of being executed. Donovan Pryor pleads guilty to all the charges against him and is sentenced to 5 life terms without parole plus 100 years for handgun violations. Looking back, it was the collective efforts of more than a dozen police agencies contributing interviews and evidence that led to the successful conclusion of this case. The accomplishment for all police officers and all investigators is to arrest the bad guy and put him in jail. When you do that, you get a nice warm feeling for about 10 minutes, until the next case comes in and you have to start all over again. But for now, every investigator who worked this case is content to know they have ended one man's violent rampage.